All right, everybody, we are going to be talking about sleep today with first responders. This whole week is going to be about sleep. Today is going to be tired and wired, waking mid-sleep. Tomorrow, let me go through the rundown for you guys. Tomorrow is sleep apnea and snoring. So we're going to dig into why I know the guys at the fire hall, you always have like tons of CPAP machines, lots of snoring going on. And for those of you that when you're at home, you're quite often being elbowed by your wives with the snoring. So we're digging into that tomorrow. Wednesday is prescriptions and sleep aids. So why do some prescriptions get you to sleep, but you don't stay asleep? Um, and sleep aids as well. Why some of them don't work at all, or why don't they keep you asleep? And then Thursday, we are getting into how to really turn your sleep hormone on. There's a lot of different things that we do that don't allow it to happen. So we're going to dig into that on Thursday and Friday. I have one of my top techniques that I really do teach in the program that can switch you out of that stress state into a resting state and allow your mind to actually go to sleep and fall asleep. So that's our lineup for today. Let's dig in now into sleep. I'm going to do one super quick look to double check that we are live in Facebook. I've been having some tech glitches here, so let's double check. Yeah, we're live. Okay, so sleeping, we're going to dig into tired and wired and waking mid-sleep. So what happens is that they're two different things. Okay, so we're going to first talk about the tired and wired. So post comments below with any questions that you have too, and I'll answer them for you during this live. So the tired and wired. What happens there is that over time of you going on shift, when you are at all different hours, different sleeping times, being awake at night, in the day, your cortisol gets completely turned around as to when it needs to be turning on and when it needs to be turning off. To add more fuel to that fire, every single time that you have a stress response, every time it can be things, your body does not know the difference between a perceived stress, so putting on your uniform and preparing for your shift, or actually being in the middle of a crisis where you have to physically be doing something with that stress. So your body can't tell the difference. So what happens is that it always sends out cortisol, which is your energy, your stress hormone. And every time that it sends that out for you to put on your uniform, for you to be stressing over financial stresses or relationships or admin stress, different things, different stressors, or rushing to a call and it's cleared. All of those stressors, they don't need energy for them. They don't need that adrenaline rush. So you have that extra adrenaline running around in you, and your body has to start cleaning that up. And so you end up, though, for a while, what happens is you have all this extra cortisol floating around in you. So with that extra cortisol, that energy stress hormone, it likes to sit in the frontal lobe of your brain. And because it doesn't know when to be turning on and when to be turning off, when you're trying to go to sleep, it's sitting there and it's like, hey, I've got energy. I'm ready to go. Let's go. And it will not let your mind shut off. So that's why you get a lot of these running thoughts, these things you just can't stop. So that is why you have the tired and wired. It's this extra cortisol floating around and your rhythms being totally off. Now, waking mid-sleep is a totally different thing. When I was just talking about your cortisol being all over the map, what also happens whenever a stressor is going out is that you also have glucose pumping out. Glucose is what gives you the fuel, the food to fight that fight. And same thing, if you don't have a fire to be putting out or a crisis to be doing or a tactical, anything tactical where you need to actually be using that fuel for, then you have all this extra fuel floating around. If it's just not just, because those can be tough too, but if it's administrative stress or thinking about what can happen on your shift, standing front lines of public order, just going to a call, all of these things, you're not using the glucose for it. So it starts floating around your body, and your body has to keep cleaning that up. And so there's different things that happen is you may find that you have weight around your middle that you cannot get rid of. What happens there is this glucose is your brain says, hey, we're cleaning up too much glucose, way too much. We need to slow this down. Let's store a whole bunch of glucose around your weight. And it doesn't matter how well you exercise, how healthy you eat. We're not going to get rid of it until you stop sending out these stress hormones and this glucose hormone all through your body. So you may have that weight around your middle you can't lose. So let me know if any of you guys have that, like the dad bod or the mummy tummy, where you just can't get rid of it after. So what happens is these glucose get all totally screwed up. You're technically supposed to have enough glucose storage for 8 hours of sleep. But what happens is your glucose, your body starts going through it. And we dug into it a little bit a few weeks ago when I was digging into the hypervigilance, where you have a stress nerve that gets really strong, and it kicks you into a stress state, and it overpowers your resting nerve. Well, what happens there is that this stress nerve kicks in when you're sleeping as well. And so it is sending out glucose, and you're rushing through it more often. So with that glucose going out all the time, you're not able to last 8 hours anymore. So if you're breathing through your mouth, you know that's you're in your stressed state. So if you find that you're snoring or your mouth is really dry, then you know that you're kicking into that state and you're burning through your glucose a lot faster. So you start waking up earlier and earlier. So many of you I talk to, it could be 7 hours. Like, let me know how many hours you guys sleep. Is it 7, 6, 5, 4? We get some that can only do 2 blocks of sleep at a time, because their glucose is firing so much and it's so messed up that it can only give them enough storage for 2 hours of sleep. And then your brain sits there and says, okay, you need to be waking up. Like, you need to be doing something about this. So there's that kind of explains why you're waking. There are some other waking mid-sleep reasons as well. With PTSD, you do have night terrors. What I am learning with that is those that I do work with PTSD is as we start to control your stress system more, as you're not sleeping in your stress system and as you're able to switch out of it more, the night terrors decrease. It doesn't get rid of them completely, but the ones that I do work with PTSD that do have night terrors, I know that as we're working through that, that does help. And then the other thing as well is while you're sleeping, that's when some of your organs are doing their work as well. So you have your liver. You have your liver and everything, your liver, your gallbladder, that's where they do a lot of their healing in the night as well. So if they're struggling. Last month, I did a whole thing on digestion, and when your gut is really off, it can actually extend into gallbladder issues as well. So if you're struggling with your liver and your gallbladder digesting things, if you have trouble digesting fats in meat, if you used to be able to like down a huge steak and now you struggle to eat the steak, that could also be a sign that your liver and your gallbladder as well are being affected by stress. So we go in and do your gut first and dig into that. So there's different reasons. The most common with you guys is the blood sugars, but as we start fixing things as well, we start fixing your gut and fixing your nervous system, the liver and the gallbladder as well start, coming around depending on how bad they were. Sometimes we need to do some work specifically on them, but sometimes they're just a byproduct. And those are other things that wake you up at night as well. Okay, Eric, yeah, 10% body fat, you still had it. Yeah. You could be like lean everywhere else, but your body will not let go of that weight around your middle. It's ridiculous, but that is a sign telling you that your stress system needs the help. So then we get into what can you do about this? So the tired and wired, the waking mid-sleep, that is where we can start giving some signals to your we start giving signals to that frontal lobe of your brain where you can start getting those hormones to slow down and getting your sleep hormone to start kicking in. Those are things I don't know. I can't give you one specific remedy, because I know in the program when we start off with this, it depends on the symptoms that you're specifically having. So with certain symptoms that people are having, they need a different protocol. So I can't definitely guarantee what will be working for you at that point in time. But then as we get that sorted a little bit, then we work into getting your nervous system aligned and everything, so that your body can even switch faster when you're going to sleep. The waking mid-sleep, I have a Band-Aid solution for you guys. So waking mid-sleep is the blood sugars, like I said. Now, there's something that you can do right now to help you while you're in the moment. It's not going to fix the root of the problem, though. Okay, so I'm just going to let you guys know that this may help you right now, and you might think, hey, this is all I need in order to start sleeping through the night. But what this is letting you know is that you have an underlying problem, which is most likely your gut. There's a blood sugar regulation gut, and as well as your nervous system. They're totally overfiring and not working properly. So we need to work on those eventually. But the Band-Aid solution right now for the waking mid-sleep is high fat, low carb snack before you go to sleep. So you may find this, sometimes I hear more night shift, sleeping after night shift on the days is where you wake up more mid-sleep. Some people, it's all the time, depends on where you're at. The reason on night shift as well is when you're sleeping, you're supposed to be releasing two of your hormones, your leptin and ghrelin, are what help satiate you and stop you from being hungry, and they help to balance. They work with those blood sugars, with the glucose hormone. And if you're awake on night, they get messed up, and then that messes up your daytime when you're trying to sleep. So if you do a high fat, low carb snack, I know my husband used to have one before he would have night shift. Before he would sleep, after getting home from night shift, before he'd go to sleep, he'd have a high fat, low carb. Now, the reason that this works is carbohydrates themselves we need them. They're great. If you prescribe to keto, that's totally fine. You're working off of another system. But for most people that are just eating a regular diet, carbohydrates are great. But the thing to understand is that they give you a spike in energy and then you drop again. So they're not going to help your blood sugars. Fats and proteins satiate you. So when you have a fat, they don't give you that spike in energy, the fat and protein, but they don't make you hungry for as long, and they keep your blood sugars a little more stable. So that's why the high fat, low carb before you're going to sleep. I used to also always have, when I was in my burnout, when this used to happen to me all the time, is I would always have a stash of raw almonds in my bedside table in a container. And if I was waking up, if after 15, 20 minutes, if I was just tossing there and I could not fall back asleep, I would have like 6 to 10 almonds. And in about 15 minutes, once my blood sugar stabilized and that signal stopped going to my brain, I would totally be able to fall asleep again. So you may need both depending on how bad your blood sugars are, like both Band-Aids on. You may be okay with just the high fat, low carb before bed. I do want to take a note though on high fat, low carb, that when I'm telling you about it, I don't prescribe to any certain diet. Anyone that comes into my program, if you're on keto, we help you with it. If you're vegetarian, vegan, we help you with that. But I'm more about just eating balanced with everything. So when I'm saying high fat, low carb before bed, I'm not saying to like eat it all of the time, unless you are on keto or you're following a diet that does do it. That's fine. But do Google search high fat, low carb snacks. You've got avocados and mangoes and fish, nuts, seeds, eggs. I used to have like hard-boiled eggs. Google fat bombs. They are amazing. Fat bombs, I used to have a stash of them in the freezer, and can't bring them to work or anything because they melt really fast and they make a disaster. But in the freezer, they're just, if you come home, pop a couple of fat bombs in your mouth, and then just go brush teeth and go to bed. It's really good. They're delicious. But yeah, just Google high fat, low carb snacks, and that will help with that Band-Aid aspect. Okay. So, just know that testing that tells you that there's a deeper issue, and I really need you to understand that it's not the permanent fix. It is just what's going to help you right now. So let me know what other questions you have. As mentioned, tomorrow we are digging into sleep apnea and snoring. So any questions you have for that too, let me know, and I will see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.